the help button.
Here are 15 tips for the Insta360 One X2 and the Insta360 One R. These tips are both for beginners and advanced users, and they cover everything from shooting all the way to stitching. And I'm sure that at least some of these will be totally new to you. So let's get started. Tip number 15, getting rid of the help button. So you know the new Insta360 app, it has this help button. It looks pretty cool at first, for the first 2 seconds or so. After that, it becomes annoying. It's always in the way. Well, the good news is you can get rid of it. Here's how. All you have to do is go back to the main menu, and from there, tap on the main settings. And from there, scroll down and you can toggle off the help button.
You have no power here.
Tip number 14, how do you connect the Insta360 Bluetooth remote to your One R or One X2? It's actually really easy, whether you're using the One R or One X2. From the main screen, swipe down to reveal the settings and swipe left to go to the next page. Tap on this gear icon or cog and then look for the Bluetooth remote option. So I'm going to tap on that, then tap it again. Then it's going to start looking for the Bluetooth remote. This is the point where you turn on your remote by holding down the square button. After turning on your remote, hold down both the square and the circle at the same time. This will put it in pairing mode. You'll see an option here called Insta360 Remote. Tap on that, and after a little while, you should see a green mark, a check mark. And there, we're connected. So it's saying connected. Now we go back to the main screen, swipe right, and swipe right again, then swipe up. Now from the main screen, then you can control your One R or One X2. So to change modes, press the square button. So this changes from time-lapse to photo to video. And if you want to start recording, then you press the circle, which acts like the shutter. So it's recording, and you press the circle again to stop recording. And if you want to turn off your Insta360 One X2 or One R, then you can hold down the square button just like the power button. Now tip number 13, remotely turning on your One R or One X2. So when you have your Bluetooth remote connected to your One R or One X2, you can actually use it to remotely turn on your camera. So this is useful if, for example, your One R or One X2 is mounted on top of your car or someplace where it's not so easy to reach. So to do that, we're going to go to the main screen, swipe down to the settings, and then swipe left and tap on this cog and tap general. And in the next screen, look for Bluetooth wake up. Here it's the third option. There, tap that and make sure it's set to on. When Bluetooth wake up is activated, that means that you can remotely turn it on with your Insta360 remote. All you have to do is hold down the power button. It takes a few seconds, but eventually it'll turn on your One R or One X2. Just like that. And then you have to wait for your remote to stay connected. There, you hear that beep, that means they're connected. So now I can control it as usual. Or turn it off. Tip number 12, how to change modes even with gloves or with wet hands. So you know how the Insta360 One R and the X2 have really useful touchscreens, but it's kind of hard to use the touchscreen when you're using gloves. Let's say you're on the ski slopes or something. Now the good news is that you can actually change modes even when you can't really touch the screen with gloves or anything. So here's how to do it. So from the main screen, swipe down to reveal the settings, and from there, lock the screen. Tap that padlock. So when you tap that padlock, what happens is that now when you press the power button, it's also going to act as a mode button. So I'm going to press the power button on the side, and it changes to video, to HDR, time-lapse, and photo. You'll be able to change modes with your One X2 or One R, even with gloves. Tip number 11. So you guys know this, right? This is the Insta360 Invisible Selfie Stick. One of the most popular monopods because it's affordable, has a pretty long reach, it works pretty well. Now this is only my second most used monopod. You know what's the monopod that I use the most? Let me show you. It's this one. This is the Benro MK10. You've probably heard about it. Now why do I use this instead of this? Well, for one thing, it's portable. Look at it, it's pocket size. It has a decent reach, not as long as the Insta360 Invisible Selfie Stick, but it's okay, still pretty good. And it has a built-in tripod. But now I have a new favorite selfie stick. Let me show you. This is the new Insta360 selfie stick with built-in tripod. Check it out. More compact than the Insta360 Invisible Selfie Stick. Unlike the Invisible Selfie Stick where you have to twist it, extend it, this one you just pull it out. And the length is also pretty good. Only slightly shorter than the Invisible Selfie Stick. And best of all, it has a built-in tripod. The base is much wider, you can compare. So it's definitely more stable. Most importantly, the Insta360 Invisible Selfie Stick with tripod solves the biggest problem with the Benro MK10. And what's that? Well, if you buy the Benro MK10, it actually includes a ball head. And when you're using a 360 camera, you do not want to use a ball head. You want it to be inline. And plus, that ball head makes this selfie stick visible. So you want to remove it. But the past year or so, Benro did something to the ball head that made it really hard to remove. So I can't even recommend this anymore. Now the Insta360 selfie stick, on the other hand, you don't need to do anything with it. It's ready for use with a 360 camera. And in case you're wondering, yes, it is invisible. Check it out. Alright, so here are some tips for using the new Insta360 selfie stick with a tripod. To open it, there's a button here at the bottom. Just press it. And as long as it's open even a little bit, then extending the selfie stick will already open the legs. And similarly, when you're closing it, just hold it here, and when you close it, it will automatically close the legs for you. Now, here's another tip. When you're opening the legs and you push this, don't think of it as like pushing with your thumb, pushing it that way. More like use the thumb to open up, press the button, but then think of pulling the collar or the shaft toward you like this, so it will open smoothly. And let's say extend it, and for whatever reason you don't want to close the legs, so instead of holding it here, I would hold it here and push from there, and the legs are still open. And you want them closed? No problem, just like that. Now, I'm predicting that this selfie stick will be so popular that it's actually going to go out of stock. That's my prediction. Did you see that? Now, if you want a quick release system like that, then check out my other video, 11 astonishing 360 camera accessories, after this video. Tip number 10, Airpods alternatives. Now, you might know that the Insta360 One R and the One X2 can use the Apple Airpods as a wireless microphone. But what you might not know is that you can also use other Bluetooth microphones as wireless microphones for the One R or One X2. So for example, I've been able to use the Galaxy Buds. Now the process for pairing non-Apple buds is exactly the same. So we're gonna go to the main screen. So from the One R or One X2 main screen, you swipe down to reveal the settings, then swipe left to go to the next page, tap on the Apple AirPods icon. Then you need to put your buds in the pairing mode. So in this case, for the Galaxy Buds, I have to insert them in my ear, and then I have to press both touchpads at the same time. Now they're in pairing mode. It should show up here in a few seconds. There it is. So now just tap on it. And when you see a check mark, then you know you're good. Aha, there, it's connected. Now that we're connected, I can swipe right and swipe up. And now I'm in the main screen with the Galaxy Buds connected as my wireless microphone. Tip number 9 is for HDR photos. Have you taken an HDR photo and you weren't sure if it was actually done taking the shot? Then you grab your camera and it turns out it wasn't done. And now you have to shoot the HDR all over again. Well, here's how to tell if the HDR is actually done shooting. When you're taking an HDR shot, all you have to do is observe the LED light. While it's taking the shot, there will be no LED light. But when it's done taking the shot, then suddenly you'll see the LED light light up like that. When that happens, then you know it's done shooting the HDR. Tip number 8, Pureshot versus Color Plus versus HDR. Which is the right one to use? Well, it depends on the situation. If you're in low light conditions, then I would use Pureshot. Pureshot does really well in low light. Now, another common situation is a backlit situation where the light is primarily coming from the back, like the sun's behind you and you're shooting this way. In that kind of situation, I recommend using Color Plus. And finally, you have high contrast situations where there are extreme dynamic range, like with really bright highlights and really deep shadows. In those situations, I recommend either HDR or Color Plus. HDR will give you the best quality, but it'll take a little bit longer to finish. But if you're in a hurry, you can also try Color Plus. Tip number 7 is for photographers. Have you ever tried taking a shot with the Insta360 One R or One X2 and you wanted to use a long exposure that's longer than 1 second? How do you do it? So let's say you're taking a photo. You swipe left to reveal the exposure settings, and let's go down to shutter priority over here, and then let's tap on the shutter icon and you could adjust this shutter speed. But when you try to adjust the shutter speed, you find that the longest that you can get is just 1 second. That's not very long, but don't worry, you can actually get shutter speeds slower than that. All you have to do is switch to manual exposure. So instead of using shutter priority, I'm gonna change that. So I'm gonna tap, so from here, we're gonna go tap on the M icon, little M there, and now we're in manual exposure. And if we tap on the shutter speed, then we can make it as slow as 120 seconds. And that's how you take slow exposures longer than 1 second with the One R or One X2. Tip number 6, custom presets. So let's say we want to have a custom setting where we're taking a photo at ISO priority with ISO set at 100. And we don't want to have to go through the menu to set that all the time. How do we store that as a preset? Here's how. So from the main screen, first go to the mode that we want to use. Let's say in this case, photo. So we tap on the photo and then we swipe left to reveal the exposure settings. From there, we go to the next icon for exposure mode. We change auto, we look for ISO priority over there. So we tap on that and then we're going to change the ISO to 100. So ISO is right now 400. We're going to set it to 100. So now the settings are what we want. After choosing the settings that we want to create a preset for it. So from the main screen, we're going to tap on this icon again to bring up the custom settings. And we're going to scroll down and look for this one that says Star Lapse. But below Star Lapse, you'll see one called Standard. So we're going to tap on that. So from here, we see the initial options, photo or video, but you can actually swipe up to reveal the other settings and then you'll see Star Lapse. Now we're not going to choose Star Lapse. Instead, look below that and you'll see P0, P1, and so on. So if you don't have any presets, it's going to say P0. That's a preset, so we're going to tap on that and then we're going to tap on save. That means that whenever you choose that icon, then you'll have ISO priority set at 100 in photo mode. Tip number 5, better stitching for photos and videos. So how do you get better stitching for your One R and One X2 photos and videos? It's really easy. If you're shooting a video, then you want to look for the option Dynamic Stitching. It's available in Insta360 Studio desktop app. Just check the box. Or now for photos, then you need to turn on Calibrate Stitching. What that does is it recalibrate the stitching or restitch the photo based on that particular scene. So don't worry, this is not going to mess up your stitching for the other photos. Tip number 4 is a shooting and editing tip. Don't record videos that are too long. If you record a video that's very long, it's going to be very tedious to edit it. I don't know about you, but for me, sometimes I get too lazy to edit it and it ends up just being stored in my hard drive and I never look at it again. Instead of doing that, record videos at short clips. Like record like a minute video, stop recording, and then wait till the right moment before you start recording again. Tip number 3, what's the fastest way to transfer your photos and videos from your camera to your PC or Mac? As you know, there are many ways to transfer your photos and videos from your One R or One X2. You can use USB cable, for example. But I found that the fastest way to transfer files is to take out the micro SD card and use a USB 3.0 card reader plugged into your Mac or your PC. With that method, I can get double the speed that I can get just by plugging in the USB cable from the camera to your Mac or PC. Tip number 2, here's an easy way to get much better photos and videos from your One R or One X2. Before you shoot, make sure to clean your lens. Take a few seconds to clean it. I know it seems like such a hassle to clean your lens, but cleaning your lens will improve the contrast in your photos and videos. And the other thing is it will save you a lot of editing time. If your lenses are dirty, you're gonna have much more glare and it's really hard to correct that, or it takes a lot of time to correct it in post. More time than the few seconds that it takes to just simply clean your lenses. So be sure to do that. And finally, tip number 1.
Don't shoot at eye level. Why not? Well, let's find out.
Let's try taking a selfie with a 360 camera at eye level. Now let's take a look at that photo with my phone. I look a little bit low in the shot, as if the camera is a little too high. Now I can tilt the screen up a little bit like this, but then my feet look tiny, my head looks large, and all the vertical lines are not vertical anymore. They look like they're pointed downward. So it doesn't look great.
Okay, so if we're not supposed to shoot at eye level, then how should we shoot? Find out in my amazing video, Rule of Thirds for 360 cameras. See you in 360.